Welcome to Still Here, Still Trying with Mike Baker. I've been watching him build this one. Nights at the desk, screens glowing. That look he gets when he's caught between focus and fear. He's been wrestling with every artist's ghost, the one that asks if any of it will matter, if anyone will care, if he's even the right person to tell this story. Mike knows he's messed up before, he's let people down. But he's learning, still trying, hoping to make the world a little better despite the imperfections. Something feels different this time. Even with the doubt, he keeps showing up. He wants to make a difference. He wants to bring hope. He wants connection that's real. Yeah, he's a little freaked out, but underneath the noise, there's calm, a quiet confidence that the message is right, that the work matters, that truth still belongs here. No Permission Needed is the show he's been moving toward for years. Not safe, not polished, real. Built from women's stories, the ones he loves, the ones he's listened to, and the ones he'll never meet but still fights for. Every piece holds their strength, their pain, their fire. He's doing something different, something honest, something that hopes for better in care and empathy and how we see each other. So yeah, he's nervous. He's pacing, second-guessing, overthinking every detail, but he's also ready. And I think, deep down, he knows this is exactly where he's supposed to be. Take a breath. You're about to hear the story behind No Permission Needed.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Still Here, Still Trying. My name's Mike Baker. I'm your host, and I think probably like I say every week, this episode means a lot to me. So thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this crazy journey that I'm on. Today's episode, I'm going to talk about my new art show that's going to appear at the Art Spirit Gallery here in Coeur d'Alene. It's called No Permission Needed, and it's pretty special. I have to say, it's the most personal creative work that I have ever shared. I'm so freaked out. It's man, it's pretty cool. But I've created a series of portraits that tell the truth about strength, pain, and invisibility. The show runs for about 6 weeks, with the first look happening during the art walk on the 14th of November. Art walk's amazing. It's so cool. If you want to just be part of community, show up on the second Friday downtown Coeur d'Alene and you see community. It's amazing. But what I wanted to do was kind of take you behind how I created this series, the story behind it, how it came to life, what it represents, and what I hope it offers to anyone who sees it. This work speaks to empathy and care. It points to women's health, advocacy, and the kind of endurance that often goes unseen. I'm hoping that the art doesn't ask for attention, but I want it to demand honesty, because every portrait carries something sacred. There's a quiet form of truth that does not fade when the lights go out. I want you to take it with you. I want you to see these images. I want you to think about the stories that I've put into the descriptions. I want you to think about what's happening in our world right now, and what's happening when we think about women's health, when we think about the life of a woman, and how we need to do better. You're going to hear what this process taught me. You're going to hear about the stories that kind of shaped it and how it changed the way that I see leadership, love, and showing up for others. So I think this episode is kind of part gratitude, part confession, and part reflection. So if you're new here, just Still Here, Still Trying is a space for real conversations about what it means to keep showing up. It's about family, it's about music, art, and work that comes from the heart. And this one, I have to tell you, this comes straight from that place. So let's talk about the show, No Permission Needed. First, I wanted to talk about the why, like why we did this. Because, like I said, the show opens this month down at the Art Spirit Gallery, and me even saying those words just blow my mind. But I've been spending time down at the gallery for the last few years. It's an incredible place. The Art Spirit Gallery is such a beautiful gem. we have several amazing places in our community. I just have a connection with Art Spirit Gallery. And I want to first, before I go any further in this, I want to thank Blair, Chelsea, and the team down at the Art Spirit Gallery. They are they are amazing people. The first time that I showed Blair a piece of my art, I was so nervous to take something to to a gallery, to an artist, to someone like Blair and Chelsea, and have them look at it. And I was so nervous. I had printed some for a show that I was going to do in New York, and it was traveling over to Norway. It was just this crazy, this first thing that I did. But I took it down, I unrolled the canvas and showed it to Blair, and just her first initial reaction just was exactly what I needed. Somebody saying, "Wow, I see what you see." And from there on out, they have been so supportive. They treat art as conversation, not transaction. I think you feel that like right when you walk through the door. They've built this space that carries people's hearts, not only their work. And being a part of that means more to me than I can explain. When I step inside that gallery, I pause before I move. There's just kind of this quiet that settles in your chest. You can smell the wood floor, you can feel the energy of that space. You can see light that's sliding across the glass, and it kind of lands on an art piece. It lands on a face that didn't exist a few months ago. And when I think about the portraits that I have there, man, those portraits, they hold weight. They're not characters, they're truth in human form. What I hope I've created are portraits of women who have carried too much for too long, and they still show up with grace and fire. Every one of these brings its own atmosphere. There's defiance, there's fatigue without surrender. There are eyes that look straight through you. No permission needed grew out of years of watching and listening my wife and daughter fighting for care that should have been straightforward. Patients proving their pain, messages from women who lived through dismissal and kept going. Those stories never left me. They built this this responsibility in me. If I did nothing with what I had seen, then I was part of the silence. And so I started creating. I tried to capture power that doesn't need permission. Strength and fatigue living in the same breath. No romanticizing, but just make it visible. Every portrait comes from that need to witness. Like everything I do, it's not perfection, it's presence. These women stand as evidence that endurance is sacred. That when you are surrounded by them, the air changes, not to suffocate you, but to ask for attention. Each piece insists on being seen. They don't whisper, they wait. They hold your eyes until you understand this is not a show about art. It's a show about being human. Look, I've made music, I've written things, I've led organizations. This work feels different. It carries it carries everyone I love. My wife's strength, my daughter's courage, the resilience of every woman who I've met through our clinics and through my work with EndoDad76 on Instagram. There's this gratitude and anger that's living side by side. I see my mom growing up, my mom, when she got mad or when she knew that there was something unjust, she would get this, she would pucker up her face and her chin would just dimple and her eyes would light on fire, and you knew that someone was gonna die. And if you know my mom, that was a rare occurrence. My mom didn't need to pull that out very often. But when she did, you knew that something bad was gonna happen. And I see that rage, I see that power, I see that fire that lit up the world when something was wrong. You couldn't dismiss the energy that my mom brought to that conversation. And it came somehow across with love, with power, with energy. So I see that. I see all of these women that have influenced me in my life. I have been so blessed to have incredible women in my life that have taught me these lessons. And I'm sorry, like, I know that I have let people down. I know I probably have talked over somebody. I have probably dismissed something and never, ever, ever intended to do any of that. But I'm here and this is what I'm trying to do. And so what I'm hoping is that on opening night that people see this. I hope that people see that this is all about connection. I hope people see recognition. I hope that there's a pull to care harder, to listen better, to stop dismissing what we don't understand. And that is the purpose, to make empathy unavoidable, to give power a shape and a name that cannot be ignored. This episode is just, it's all about that happened, how these portraits came to life, what they taught me, and what I hope they stir in the people who see them. Because like I said, no permission needed. It's not a project, but this is a promise. This is a promise to keep showing up for truth, for care, and for the people whose stories built this. So that's the why. And that's where it all begins. When I started kind of thinking about this project, like creating art for an art show, right? It started quietly. I didn't have a deadline. I didn't have a plan. There was just this hole that I couldn't shake. And so I'd spend nights in my studio and on the couch with the dogs and my laptop. This always happens when the house is still, the screen's glowing on the wall. I might have just played hockey and I'm kind of decompressing, or I'm thinking about my day. There's might be a peach monster next to me. um, you know, for this, I'd look at reference images and I'd look at things that I've created in the past with my EndoDad work. And there was one question that kept circling back. What would it look like to make something that tells the truth? Not a safe truth, and not a polished version of truth, but the real thing. The weight, the fight, that kind of the quiet that no one sees. And I heard the voice that asked, "You're a man. You haven't lived this. Who do you think you are?" And that voice had a point. I have not lived what these women live, but I've seen it up close. In my home, in our clinics, and in stories that women have trusted me with. And once you see it, you don't get to pretend that you haven't. And so I began with humility and with responsibility. I would not speak for anyone. I would hold space with them. Use what I have, art, empathy, voice, and make sure that what women endure does not disappear into the silence. So one night I opened up my laptop and I started thinking about, what I was trying to create, built in the prompts and started playing with inside Midjourney. And I have to tell you, just wow, I was stunned. I was stunned. I started to see this face form, and she was strong. She was steady. She was half lit, like she stepped out of the shadow to meet the light. And her presence, it stopped me. It floored me. It's like she did not need my approval. She existed. And she was unflinching. And that first image, it became a compass. I stopped planning. Just I listened. I kept working. I kept letting the tools do their work. Just the algorithm churning and churning and churning and creating something incredible. And each piece arrived like it already knew what to say. There was defiance in the posture. There was exhaustion beneath the resilience. There was a stillness that didn't need to prove power. And this series was well, not traditional art for me. I mean, I'm not a traditional artist. Even saying the word artist freaks me out. But it was like it was a translation. Like, how do I turn something invisible into something that's undeniable? The women were already speaking, and I just needed to get out of the way. And so creation felt like uncovering something that was buried, something that had been breathing under the surface. And with each new portrait, the room shifted. And that's how No Permission Needed was born. It was born out of hesitation. It was born out of awe, out of a choice to stop asking if it was my place and to accept that it was my responsibility. At first, I thought I was building portraits, but then I realized they were building me. And this was so cool because, like, the early pieces, they came slow. Start, I'd walk away, I'd return, I'd delete them, I'd try again. And then after that first one came, it's like it turned into listening. And each image, it arrived with authority. The corner piece of this show, one of my favorite images in the show, it's called Not Your Hero. And that image set the tone. She stands tall, there's no armor, there's no apology. You can just look at her face, you can see that she is tired of performing. She's tired of showing that her strength is something that makes others uncomfortable. And that piece called me out. Stop making strength safe. And then this other image came. It's titled "Fuck Your Power," and that one landed like a punch. The red bandana, sunlight across her jaw, that look of a boundary that's being set, and it's not rage for attention. It's boundary. And that piece does not whisper, but it roars in silence. Then I created one a while ago for a colleague. It's called Flourish. It's color and it's light, hair opening into wild blooms, red for courage, blue for clarity, purple for wisdom, not fantasy, growth, strength, and beauty together. Sometimes resilience looks like peace. Another piece called Eyes Wide Open. By the time that one got there, the work had a pulse. This one, there's gold across her face, like a map of survival. Not decoration, but evidence. It was a reminder to stay awake, to keep looking, to keep naming what the world hides. When art starts leading, you lose control and you find a truth. You show up because the images will not let you rest. They demand to be finished. They demand to be seen. And so design kind of took a back seat. This became this like emotional excavation. Each portrait felt like a conversation between what the world hides and what refuses to stay hidden. And near the end, I stood back and I felt this reverence. I was proud, but it wasn't pride. It was this gratitude for being trusted with something raw and sacred. I felt like I had all of these women in my life that were just in the background sharing their wisdom and their experience and their stories with me. And somehow as I was able to take all of that and translate it into these images. And I hope that I've been successful. I hope that people feel what I feel. I hope people see what I see. And I think that is when I knew that the show had a heartbeat, not images, witness. It was a living thing. It was a voice that was made visible. And so I stopped guiding it. I let it speak. And that's what you'll see when you come to the gallery. The line between my art and my life kind of vanished with this project. The women on the wall felt like women that I know, not copies, just echoes. There's quiet strength. There's fire behind tired eyes. The message, I'm still here. Kelly lives in this work, not in appearance, in spirit, steady, patient, moving through pain without bitterness. Fire and silence feels like her. Restraint on the surface, heat underneath. I stopped and stared. I've watched her endure the unendurable and still show up with grace. Samantha, my daughter, lives here too. Her courage rewired my view of power. There's an image called Between Rounds, and I think it carries that feeling. Gloves down, head low. She's ready anyway. She's tired. She's exhausted. But she's got her gloves on and she's ready to keep fighting. There's this pause between exhaustion and the next surge of will. Sorry, but she keeps choosing to rise. They changed how I lead, listen, and create. There's compassion because compassion without action is not compassion. If empathy costs you nothing, it's just noise. And I see the same stories in our clinics. Moms balancing babies and paperwork, teens waiting too long for simple care, women keeping their voices calm to be taken seriously. This is not theory. This is every day. The show is personal and professional. And it asks what happens when a system forgets to see people and counts them instead. It asks what it takes to rebuild from the inside so care stays human. I can't separate art from mission. Both ask the same question. How much longer do we expect women to carry this alone? No permission needed reflects that question. Every piece reaches for truth, leadership, kind of this language that cannot hold. Again, that it's not theory. We know this is real. This is lived experience in light and texture. People ask me if this was hard to make. Yeah, it was hard, but also it wasn't hard. It was holy. Like I felt guided in this process. This is the kind of work that changes you while you build it. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to live up to what it showed me. So step back from the faces, and what I hope is that you're going to see a map of right now. You're going to see women that are asked to carry more while being given less. You're going to see a quiet crisis in women's healthcare. You see hospitals and clinics closing. You see OB providers leaving our state. You see good people doing the very best they can with half the tools they need. And politics are right there in the middle, loud and disconnected from the exam rooms. I have watched it here in Idaho. I hear stories of women that drive hours to deliver their baby. I hear stories of teenagers that are hiding symptoms. I hear a mother that misses work for weeks, trying to find someone who believes her pain. And these are people that I've met, people my team has cared for. In community health, policy becomes personal. Rules written far away show up here in flesh and blood. When compassion gets stripped out, women pay the highest cost. They bend and absorb until they break, and then they still show up. And that is part of why I made this show. This is not a political statement, but I need this to be a mirror. The portraits do not preach, they witness, they ask. Now that you have seen this, what will you do? Awareness without accountability is not empathy. That's just entertainment. And we've had enough of that. Care is not optional. Dignity is not partisan. When we talk about women's health, we are talking about human rights. I have seen leadership lose its humanity. I have also seen the opposite. I've seen nurses staying late so no one leaves unseen. I've seen doctors fighting denials line by line so one woman gets her medication. I've seen advocates and mothers and daughters building networks from love and grit. That is the Idaho that I know. And that is the country that I still believe in. Art cannot fix the system, but it can tell the truth about who the system fails. It can humanize what headlines turn into abstractions. It can give us something to hold when the noise gets loud. When people walk into the Art Spirit Gallery, I hope that they see what I see. I hope they see that power does not need validation, that courage does not wait for permission. Women who are done asking to be heard. I hope you see that. I hope you see that. because that is the public truth behind this work. This is empathy as action. When the first batch of images arrived, I was out of town. And Sammy, she was tired, but she brought all the boxes inside and she set them into the office. She knew what this meant to me. And when as soon as I got home, I opened up the boxes, just kind of like tearing the cardboard, and you could smell this ink and the paper in the air. And then, wow, you take it out of the box. There's this face. It's half lit, the jaws set, the eyes calm and knowing. The colors looked deeper. The gold was richer. The reds were just pulling you in. And I just whispered to myself, holy shit, these are real. And I unboxed the rest. I leaned them along the wall and I was doing it in the kitchen, and the room just filled with presence. It was fierce. It was tired. It was luminous. It was grounded. It's like human electricity. It's like the house felt like it was breathing. Flourish glowed, eyes wide open, not your hero, the weight no one sees. I had seen them 1,000 times on the screen, and in print, they were themselves. They were alive, they were unapologetic, they were complete. I just sat there and took it in, exhausted, overwhelmed, and proud. Months of emotion and love finally tangible. Real art changes form. It stops being a project. It becomes a presence. And that night I sat with the lamp on, just edges catching the light, memory and truth all around me. I didn't feel like an artist. I felt like a witness to endurance, to rising, to stories finally seen as sacred. And that moment stays with me. There was awe, stillness, gratitude. I felt my mom. I felt Lidwin Durney. I felt all these people in my life. I felt their presence. This is not art on a wall. This is proof that truth has weight, beauty, and a pulse. Well, Kelly and I went down to Art Spirit Gallery for our date night tonight. I'm recording this on Friday, and they're hanging them on Tuesday. But we unwrapped the prints. We kind of checked the edges and lined them all up against the wall. And it just felt like the gallery moved with a quiet focus. You can hear laughter down the hall. You can hear people gathering and people absorbing. Schultz and Blair and everybody down there was just working. And I just kept thinking, how did I end up here? I cut QR codes and tried not to botch the edges. Each QR code links to my YouTube descriptions. You can scan the QR code and you will hear me tell the story behind each piece. They're little doors into why she looks that way and what she carries. I built a binder with every image and notes so anyone helping can understand the work. I hope this was just another act of care. I want people to feel intention and gratitude in every inch. Helping reminded me why I started. This isn't to impress. While I hope that you enjoy it and I hope you see value in the things that I'm bringing to the world, it's not here to impress. I want to connect. I want to honor the people in the art and people making it possible to share. Looking down the wall, the pieces are side by side in the right light. But I just felt lucky. Lucky for a team that believes in art this way. Lucky for a partner who supports me through chaos. Lucky that people will stand in front of this work and feel what I felt. And that is the hope that the show carries care, not only images. That people realize that they are standing inside someone's story and that they carry that story a little longer than they expected. When I walk the gallery now, the space just feels settled. There's warm light, there's wood and ink in the air. The portraits are alive and steady. I've spent hours on the details: cards, binders, QR codes, slow work that forces presence. They're small tasks that turn into respect. Kelly's support runs through all of it. Patience in the long nights, grace in the changes, belief when mine fades. She reminds me to keep my heart open. And I owe acknowledgement to her, to our daughter, and to every woman in my life. I have not always gotten it right. Sometimes I missed what someone tried to say. Sometimes I spoke when I should have listened. Sometimes I made someone feel small when I meant care. None of it was intentional, but it still hurt. And if I dismissed or minimized you, I'm sorry. I'm learning. I'm doing my best to be better. And that is part of this show. The work of paying attention, the courage to grow past blind spots, the choice to hold on to empathy when it is uncomfortable. And I hope it inspires more of that in me and in you. I did leave one image in the show, and you'll see it. It's a piece I created long ago, and it's called The Weight No One Carries. It's the only image in the show of a man, but it shows, I hope that it shows you what I feel. I feel the weight. I feel the pressure. I feel the responsibility to do better, to be better, to call others to be better, to bring people together. And when you look at that image and you hear the story behind it, I hope that you connect with it. I hope you see that that's what this is all about for me. So thank you to Art Spirit Gallery. Thank you to Blair, Schultz, and the whole team. You guys believed in me. You didn't just put pictures on the wall. You treated it with the respect that I tried to give the people whose stories built it. Thank you to my family for patience and love. Thank you to Heritage Health, to the whole team there. Thank you for proving that leadership and compassion belong together. I want to thank everybody in the EndoDad community for trusting me with your truth. To everyone who shows up at the gallery, online, or here listening, thank you. Thank you for caring and for making space for this kind of work. Standing in that room with all those faces, I'm proud, but I don't feel pride. I feel gratitude. I feel gratitude for the stories, for the lessons, and the grace that got us here. No permission needed it's definitely not perfect, but it brings presence. And I hope that it shows that we see people as they are, doing the work, messing up, learning, and trying again. That's what we're all about. That's the human condition. And that's what I'm doing. Trying again, loving better, listening harder, leading from the center of my heart. And if you're trying to, you're not alone, because we're still here. We're still trying. And we're still believing that truth spoken with care can change something. I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, I'm going to send you out tonight with a slideshow of the images that will be in the gallery. So those that are on audio only, sorry, you're gonna have to go watch this. There will be a link to the video on YouTube in the show description. I created a song. The song is called No Permission Needed. I hope you've listened to the words, and I hope that the words synced up with the images that will be in the show. I hope that helps you feel the story if you can't be at the Art Spirit Gallery and experience in person. I wanted to create something where you could at least feel the emotion and feel the connection to the images. It won't be the same as being in person, but I know many of you are out there, you support me and you want to be a part of this. So here's my gift. Here's something for you so that you can be a part of this experience too. Enjoy.
I've watched her face the quiet where care was meant to be. She sat alone in quiet rooms while no one said her name. She spoke and they dismissed it like her pain was some mistake. But strength like hers was never built for someone else to break. My daughter once asked softly, will they listen when I cry? I told her that they should, but knew the answer was a lie. 'Cause I've seen their truth denied while we decorate their pain. Wrap it up in praise and poems, but never change a thing. They don't need your comfort, they don't need your grace. They've held up half the sky while being pushed out of the frame. No permission needed to speak or take up space, to rest without defending the lines upon her face. No more waiting kindly, no more asking nice. She's not here to be forgiven, she's here to live her life. I've watched the clinics closing, seen the distance grow too wide. Where help should hold its promise, she drives through the night. They politic her body as if care was up for vote. But there's no debating bleeding and no healing in we hope. She's not waiting on redemption, she's not softening the truth. She's been strong too long in silence, now the silence has to move. No permission needed to breathe or rage or rest, to lead without approval, to heal without a test. She's not here for comfort or to make the story sweet. She's here because she's power and she stands on her own feet. Don't paint her as your hero, she never asked for that. Don't twist her fight for meaning, then try to give it back. She's not your inspiration, she's not your saving grace. She's the voice you didn't hear and now she owns this place. No permission needed, no gate she needs to cross. She speaks without condition, she rises without cost. No praise will make it better, no guilt will make it right. She is not your lesson, she's the fire, she's the light. She is not your lesson, she's the fire, she's the light.